Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a true micro stove. This is so small it'll fit in the palm of your hand, but it puts out quite a bit of heat, puts out quite a bit of light, and you can cook on it. So this is something that you can carry in your backpack on hiking and camping trips, and that's what I plan on doing with this small micro stove. But you can also keep it in your pantry for emergencies such as a power outage, and this will not put out a lot of soot or anything that's going to be harmful. I'll show you the safest fuel that you can put in it. And just remember that with anything like this, you need to make safety first, such as the right detection equipment and fire extinguishers. So let's get started on making a true micro stove heater. Now you can use a soup can to make this heater, but I'm actually opting with this unused paint can. You can buy these online. You can buy, I think it's a pack of 3, and they're perfectly clean inside. There's no sprayed in lining on it, so it's just something that you would use to store paint in if you had some left over. So I'll put a link in the description to these, but this is what I'm using today to make the micro heater. And like I said, you can fit it in the palm of your hand. That's how small it is. Now to do this next step, you're going to need to drill holes all the way around the outside, about every ½ inch, maybe a ¼ inch in size. And the point of doing this is to have better air intake so our flame will work better. So I'm using this right here. It's a step drill bit, but you can use any type of standard drill bit, but you'll get a cleaner cut in this type of metal by using a step drill bit. Now one thing we need to remember is I'm going to also use this as a cooking device, so we need to leave 4 spaces around all 4 corners, and I'm going to mark that with my marker to make sure that I don't put a hole in the area where I need to have that space. So we'll have the holes on each side of our little elevated L bracket here with a self-tapping screw. So just remember, you need to do that first and have it in 4 spots around the outside so you can balance whatever you might be cooking on and make sure it doesn't fall off, because you can't set it directly on there. Even with the air intakes, you're going to smother the flame. So there needs to be a little bit of a gap between your flame or the top of the can and whatever you're going to be cooking with, such as this camping cookware that I have. And so just remember, you need to make sure that if you do plan on using it for something other than heat, you're going to use it for cooking, you're going to want to install these little brackets here and just make sure that there's a little bit of space there to allow the flame to be able to work properly and not smother itself out. All right, and so I want this elevated quite a bit. So these L brackets, I'll put a link in the description to them, but these will be right about there. And so I'm going to mark that. I want to make sure I do that evenly around the entire exterior, and don't put it where the seam in the can is, where the can is actually put together. This one is right here, so I just want to make sure that I don't drill into that seam. So we got one on that side, one on that side. We're going to avoid the seam on this next side. Then go to the opposite side of that. And there we go. Now we'll drill our holes, or our air intake holes there, I should say. All right, so we have our small indentations. It's going to help the self-tapping screws get a good grip there. And so I just wanted to mark that first. And I'm not going to use a super long self-tapping screws. I'm going to use my little kit here and find one that's a little bit closer, maybe to the little bit under ½ inch in size, because I don't want this going deep into the can. Just want it just enough to hold our L bracket in place. And so we can use this as a stable place to cook. We'll put the first one in. Line it up with the little semi-puncture hole we made there. Got to change out my bit. And these have a hex head drill bit on them, so you're going to need something like that to be able to get a good grip on each one of these. And let's see, we're going to go back to that point where we have it there and get our L bracket, line it up properly, and just try to hold it really still. It's a nice firm grip there. I don't want to overdo it because it may not have a good grip. So this is going to easily hold anything we set on there. So I'm going to add the other 3, and then we'll have the stove portion. Now, like I said, if you're not planning on cooking on this, this would be an optional step. But in this step, I do want to be able to cook on my little micro stove here. So after I attached them the first time, I felt like one screw was just not stable enough and it wasn't catching quite well because this is a little bit thinner. The previous one I made was actually made with a soup can. This metal's a little bit thinner, so it wasn't quite as good. So now we have our stability on the top. It's a little bit closer to the flame, but it can still escape there. And we can put in either a soup can or a coffee mug in our camping trip. And so it's a little bit unstable. I need to do a little bit more work on it, but it's a lot better than it was. And this is, I'm going to demonstrate how it works, but I'm going to show you heat versus cooking. Now this is the cooking setup, but I'm going to show you a little device you can order. These little coffee filters you can put on top like that. And so it will act as kind of a radiant heater once you start it. But there's a very special wick we're using. We're using a forever wick that will never burn up. Now normally I would say carbon felt, but in this case I'm going to be using these scouring pads that are made out of stainless steel. All right, so I'm actually using 2 of these. Put them down in there. Be careful because your screws are sticking out a little bit. And once you put these in there, you'll never need to replace them. Like I said, it'll act as kind of a forever wick. And so I'll talk about the fuel and why it works so well, but this is going to be great. We'll just put that in there, spread it out a little bit, and you'll never need to change these out. So you may want to wear a pair of leather gloves if you're going to be doing this, but I've done it several times and I've gotten used to it, so I know exactly where the screws are at and how to avoid cutting my fingers. So this micro stove that fits in the palm of your hand, we've got our forever wick in there. We even have a cap on it to keep anything from getting in there. This is not going to extinguish it because you have the air intake, so it might slow the flame down a little bit, but it won't stop it. So there we have it. That's the basic setup. Now I'm going to talk about the fuel. Now I really like denatured alcohol being used in a lot of these wood stoves I'm creating. If you look right here, I'll try to hold it closer to the screen where you can see it, but it's specifically made for these alcohol burning stoves and marine stoves. So it's clean, odorless, smokeless flame. So this is one of the best things you can use. Keep this in your pantry or in your camping gear, which I do. I keep a small can of this. I have a much larger can in the greenhouse, but this is one I carry with me on camping trips. If you have an emergency power outage and have no way to cook or heat, this is the perfect fuel for that. All right, so I'm going to move the fuel out of the way and I'm going to refill our little micro heater here. This is just what I use in my cactus garden. These are great. You can find them at the garden center, but I'm just going to refill the fuel. There's a little bit more in there. And again, be careful because there can be vapors. Just stand back and relight. And there you go, it started. It's going to burn a little bit yellowish in the beginning, but we'll have a nice blue flame before you know it. And also, I'm going to boil this cup of water. And this is really my camping soup can, but we're just going to put it over there and give it some time to get our water coming to a boil. All right, I'm going to put the little heater element on here. And I'm going to cut the lights out in the greenhouse to let you see how red hot this actually gets. So as you can see, this puts out quite a bit of heat. If you're on a camping trip in a small tent and you need to heat up inside, or if you have a power outage, this will work great. You can cook on it, remove the heater element piece here. This is just a coffee filter, as I mentioned earlier. Put your can on there, you can boil water. So there's just a lot of different ways you can use this, but it is truly a micro heater. So I wanted to give you a view from above at the boiling of the water. And so it works great for cooking. You can make your coffee on the trail. You could cook food, whatever you have in your pantry if you have a power outage. So this is a great little emergency heater. You could put a small skillet on top of it. It couldn't be huge, but it could be like an 8 to 10 inch skillet. You could cook over it. So let's put the little heater element back on top of it and cut the lights out one more time and see how it looks now. All right, without these gloves, this would be very difficult to do. So make sure when you're dealing with this, you have a very nice pair of leather gloves. But as you can see, the stainless steel mesh gets red hot and it puts out quite a bit of heat. So it acts kind of as a radiant heater if you're not cooking on it. So you can do double duty, and it also puts out just a little bit of light, not a lot. But when you take this element off, the flame comes up. And so, like I said, the more pure your fuel, the bluer the flame can be. So a lot of times you won't be able to see it quite as well. So if you're using something like a 90% rubbing alcohol or lower, you're going to see a brighter flame, but then you're going to have more impurities in the thing and cause more in your fuel. You'll have more soot and things like that. So as you can see, this can act as a heater, a stove for cooking, and also for light. So as you can see, this is steaming still. I'm hoping that's able to see on the camera, but it is super hot. The boil has came down a little bit, but you could easily make a meal using this little device. And so now we're going to do some heat testing. Let's see if we can get that in view there. And so this is our stainless steel mesh. I'm sorry, I know it's going in and out of focus. I've seen 500, 600 degrees, depending on wherever you put it there. So this gets extremely hot. And like I said, it will put out a lot of heat. We're still in October, so the greenhouse wasn't that cool to begin with, but now it is quite warm in the greenhouse from this tiny little heater. So something like this on the trail, or as an emergency device during a power outage or natural disaster, if I can get that out, natural disaster, this would come in really handy, and it takes up a very minimal amount of space. So guys, this is still running very hot even after 30 minutes, and that's just a few ounces of fuel. So you don't have to carry a lot of fuel with you to make this work for quite a bit. So if you're just using it for cooking, it could go for an entire weekend camping trip, or for heat, you'd want something a little bit larger than that can I showed you, but you can buy those in, I think, half-gallon or maybe 3/4-gallon sizes. So again, this is putting out a lot of heat. It serves for 3 different purposes. It's really small and it's really simple to put together. And as I said in the very beginning, you don't have to use one of these small paint cans, although I'll put a link in the description. You could use something as simple as a used soup can. So it's a lot of different ways to use it. Of course, you'd have a little bit more difficulty keeping your top on there unless it was sized just right. So that's a lot of things to take into consideration. I would recommend the little small paint cans because I prefer that size, and they're a little bit easier to work with. The soup cans can be a lot thicker metal than these, so it's a little bit easier to work with and put in your vent holes. And I think it just looks a little bit nicer than a soup can, so it looks like something you may have actually purchased. Now, one of the questions I always get when I'm making a homemade stove heater or anything like this, the question always pops up, how do you put it out? And in this case, you could smother it with a larger size can. It needs to be metal, not any kind of plastic, because you don't want to take a chance on melting anything, but you want to starve the flame of oxygen, and that's the easy way to put it out. Since the wick in this is made out of stainless steel, the stainless steel scouring pads, you can just pour water on it, just a small, maybe just a half a cup to a cup, and that'll put it out just as well. So just remember, you're not limited to how you can extinguish the fire, but I know that's a question that's going to always come up, and you could just let it burn itself out. So guys, I recently set up a Patreon. If you like this type of content, I have a lot of PDFs and a lot of videos that I'm putting up slightly early, and some videos I'll be putting up on Patreon that will never appear on YouTube. So if you'd like to become a member of Patreon, you can do that as well. And I really appreciate everybody who asks a question, but if you have a question about this video or any previous video, I hope you'll become a public subscriber on my YouTube channel first, because I tend to filter those questions first, because I get so many questions every day, anywhere from 100 to 300 questions a day, and it's really hard to answer everybody. So I'll definitely put your question to the front of the line as I slowly get caught up on questions. So we're still burning over 30 minutes now later. I would say the build time on this is probably under 10 minutes, but again, I just wanted to let it heat the water up, boil it, and let you see how fast it can boil water. And the amount of heat it's put out in this greenhouse has got me to sweating. It's not really cold outside, but it's definitely made a difference in this pretty large size greenhouse, 20 by 24 greenhouse. So before I sign off, I want to do one more heat test. And right on top of that steel wool is showing, I've seen it actually touch 1,000 degrees, but right here, we're looking at about 800 degrees. So around this area, anywhere from 700 to 800 degrees. So that's quite a bit of heat. So guys, I really appreciate you watching, and have a great day.